Hi guys, welcome back to Farida's Media. My name is Farida. Today I'm going to be talking to you about why I moved from the US back to Niger. This is the number one question I get asked wherever I go is why would you ever move back to Niger? Why would you ever move to Niger from the US? Because a lot of people feel like the US is a great country and everybody should love staying there. And so today this video is going to be answering a lot of the questions, my journey, and yeah, let's get into it. I moved to the US when I was really young, maybe kindergarten or so, really young. My mom was in the US, my dad was in the US, my siblings were there, half of my family was born there, and so it was home to us. It wasn't like I moved to the US for school, it wasn't like I moved there for work. Because I know it's a different living experience when you move there for just school and you're only there, like you don't have family there, you don't know your way, like you didn't grow up there, it's a new country to you. I mean, going into a new country when you're kindergarten, the age of kindergarten, it's like home to you. When you grow up there, it's like home to you. I grew up going to primary school, middle school, high school, college, university. Like I did all the steps that a typical American would do, that just like had their entire life there. So I would say in the beginning, my entire life was there. In high school, I was like, from middle school to high school, I was really involved with like, I did basketball, I did debate, I did speech, I did girls to women, I did a cooking club. I did a lot of things. And so I felt that I was more so living the typical American life. It wasn't so like just a hustling life or just like someone who's really new to it. Like I really did experience um, just growing up in the US and having your family to support you. And the reason why I say it's different is because when you don't have family there, you live a different experience. Let's just put it at that. It could be another video. Even though I was growing up in the US, I would always visit Niger. During summer breaks, I was always in Niger. I was visiting family. And so I kind of have the reality of both worlds, where I know that these are different worlds. I know that the life experience is very different in these two places. One thing that marks a huge difference is the opportunities that are available to you. For instance, when I graduated high school, I had a lot of scholarships. I had the opportunity to go to my favorite college, university, and you just have opportunities that seem like nothing. Like being able to work in high school, that seems like it's normal. I started working like part-time jobs in high school. I did part-time in university. And then I went to full time when I felt comfortable in university. But like things like that, you think, oh, it's nothing, but it's an opportunity that people in Niger don't have. You would have someone who would finish up to a master's degree without ever having had a real job. Whereas you would have an American who would be in high school and having a full-time job, even if that might be like a fast food chain job or something really simple. Like you would still have an experience, like even if it be like, I don't know, those typing jobs just flew out of my mind right now, but like a simple job, but you would have a like workforce experience. In Niger it's different. There aren't even jobs like that to grab really easily as there are in the US. Like school opportunity is, I think school in the US, maybe because I grew up in that system and I know the system more, but school in the US, I I I really I liked it. I had a great experience in school. I was really outgoing. I had friends. I really loved school there. It was nice. It was good. But school here, like you could have a year where there's no school. Like the school is on strike. Teachers are on strike. Like it could happen in the US, but I mean, I went through my whole school system like progress. I mean, I'm still, doing my doctorates, but still, like I went through school, I went through a lot of different experiences without ever having all teachers on strike and students on strike and not having to go to school unless it's snow breaks. You know what I mean? Like those are different opportunities. The lifestyle is completely different. Um what is expected of you as an individual in the US and what is expected of you as an individual in Niger is so different. In Niger, you would have, I would say now, like you would have people starting families younger, building relationships younger, stuff like that. And even if they don't have a job, and so in the U.S. it's different. You would have younger individuals going to school more, or maybe starting their business or doing something with their life, but something not as serious as starting a family or starting like marriage and stuff like that. So it's a different world. It's two completely different worlds, I would say. Um, but I I I think that they are both amazing, but just different, completely different worlds. One other thing is that you're not limited in the US. In Niger, you kind of are limited. Society is limiting. I mean, the US society is also limiting, but in a different way, in a very, very different way. I think in an open minded way, almost turning woke way. That's a joke, by the way. But society is different. There's no limitations. Like if a 16-year-old comes up and says, "Hey, I'm going to work. I want to start working," like it's not viewed as something strange in the US, but in Niger, like a 40-year-old could, I mean, it's easily possible to happen in the US as well, but it's more it's a lesser opportunity to happen in the US than it's more frequent in Niger. Like a lot of people, like especially the youth, don't have jobs in Niger. You could be up to 25 years old without ever having had a job. Whereas in the US, you could, only if you didn't want to work, Samantha. I don't have anything against Samantha, but like only if you didn't want to work, Mike, and you wanted to collect unemployment. But you could easily get a job in the US. I mean, I lived in Indiana, Indianapolis precise, and it was easy to get a job. It was really easy to get a job. It was something that, and school was easy. You had your teachers to help you. You had a lot of opportunities. And so what was hard, or what I didn't feel right, and what was missing, I was missing home. I know that I said that I had my home in the US. I had my mom and dad. um, but every time I would come back to Niger, I felt a different type of home. I felt a different type of connection to the people here, and the cultural aspect of it, the society, the environment. It's just different. What do I want to call it? It's just different. The vibes. It's just different. Like, um, I had my aunts and uncles here. I had my grandma. My grandma. I'm really close to my grandma, and so my grandma is here. Um, it was just that home environment that was missing. It was that social aspect of it. It was also missing. I really enjoyed that home social kind of environment that you don't get in the US. The US is set up for a more individualist type of society than a community type of society, unless you really work hard. Like you had to fight to have that community type of society. And in Niger, it's just natural. It's a community type of society. The way the society is set up here is just natural. It's just a communal kind of way of, having relationships with people, and just interacting with people. I don't even know how to put it. The cultural aspect was different. If you really started wearing the hijab really, really young, maybe in middle school, and a lot of kids weren't really educated on different religions, different type of cultures in the U.S., and so you could get bullied. But besides that, like you could go to a DMV or a BMV. In Indiana, it's a BMV, even though I think for the rest of the country, it's a DMV. I don't know how that happened. But I think like you could go there. I know like my US driver's license, I have my hijab on. But in Niger, even though 99% of the country is Muslim, like you still have to take your hijab off to get your ID picture taken. So I think there are different quirks that, I really like about the US. That you don't get here, but it doesn't make it bad here. It's just like you have to adjust to it. You really do have to adjust. And one thing I would say is the wokeness in Niger is different. I, People are not with that woke culture. If you know what I mean by woke culture, you know what I mean. Like in the US, it's it's more so the woke culture that's in charge of, okay, I digress. It's not in charge, but it's pushed on people. It's pushed on people, I feel. And so that's something that's really different, that I don't miss. I don't miss it, and I'm grateful that I ran away from it. So I knew that I didn't want my children to grow up in this woke American culture, because for me, what I grew up in, the America that I grew up in, was very different than the America that America was becoming. It was just different. Um, I'm not very, very old to say that I know like the beginning of the US, but really the environment that I grew up in was changing. I mean, on TV, what we watch is changing. The characters are changing. I'm not even talking about the culturally appropriation of you know film characters. That's another story. But like being introduced in the media is really changing. What's deemed normal in society is changing. And everything that was changing was different than my cultural beliefs, my morals that I developed, that I grew up knowing. And I didn't want my kids not to have the same morals and beliefs that I did. I know that it's different, and that children will grow up to be their own person. Kids will grow up to be their own person, but you still have to instill in them the values that would help them be better people in society. The values, and you have to create the environment that would guide them to being good people in society, to being productive people in society. And the type of culture that was unraveling in the US, and how it's being pushed on people, and how it's being really normalized, is something that I really, like, I felt strong about, that I didn't want my kids not to have the basis that I had that helped guides me. Some people would think that, oh, you could just change. People could change no matter what beginnings you had, you could change. Yes, you could change, but the beginnings you had will make you as a person. That's the reason why a lot of people are in therapy now, because of their upbringing, right? And so, really, the upbringing that I wanted for my kids was to have a certain set of morals, a certain set of standards, a certain culture, a certain understanding of life. And when I was saying that I was doing my MPH in social and behavioral science, I had one course at the time where we had to redefine gender. Like, we had to define gender. What is gender? And we had to define what is sexuality. And I just found that so bizarre that, that was even in our schools, like even at our level, like where we were deemed to, I don't know how to say, we were deemed to have some level of scientific knowledge to what we're learning and what we're doing, but we still had to learn this aspect of life. I mean, of course, I'm not saying that, learning, like, I we had to kind of also acknowledge this other side of, being that is socially happening. And as public health professionals, yeah, we had to understand. You have to understand different people. You have to understand what the logic is at the elementary level. I say it's not primary school sometimes, but at the elementary level, like, children are also being culturally molded, I feel, into learning different things that, I don't know if it's culturally appropriate, or morally appropriate at that age, to just not let children be children. But anyways, I don't want this video to be about that topic. It could be a different video, but things were missing in the US that I didn't even have to search for in Niger. I didn't have to search for it in Niger. It was just still a normal society in Niger. Now, I'm not saying that there are places in the world that are shields from this. I think all over the world, there are different living experiences, and people are living their truth. But I know that the society, the community that I'm in Niger, is what I wanted for my children, and it mirrors what I had growing up. And so that was part of it. it wasn't only family. I knew that I wanted a career because I was going back and forth from Niger to the US and from the US to Niger, especially during breaks. And sometimes even during school when I had classes like almost all online. And so I I was pursuing my master's, and there's an option to have my master's completely online. I know a lot of people don't have this opportunity, but I was grateful enough to, I was very fortunate enough to have this opportunity where I could take my master's online, completely online. I mean, there are synchronous classes and asynchronous classes and completely online classes, but I was very fortunate enough to, be able to take it online, and so I did. I was like, let me transfer my master's to an MPH that would be completely online, and that way I could experience coming to Niger and living in Niger for a little bit and seeing how it is, and then I'll go back to the US if I didn't like it. I had options. I know a lot of people don't necessarily have options, but I had options, and so I took those opportunities, and I just booked a flight. I booked a flight and I came to Niger. Now, of course, you're thinking, okay, what about where you're gonna live? Your living arrangement, you know, how did you figure that out? Um, that came fairly easy because we had a family home in Niger, in the capital. To begin with, we have a family home, and mind you, at that time when I finished my bachelor's, I already was married, and so I also have another home in Niger. And this is a part that some people don't like to talk about. I had a home, I had land, but it wasn't built. So, um, a lot of people don't necessarily wait. When I finished my bachelor's, it was built. It was built. I just didn't have it equipped. Um, because I wasn't living here. And so this is the part I think a lot of people don't like to talk about. And I'm going to start rambling again. But some people make it seem like, oh, I just moved and everything was great. I mean, I moved, everything was great, but I had things in place that would help me make that great, if you know what I mean. I had family already, I had home already. So it was easy to just come and settle down. And so that's different for a lot of people who don't have homes, who don't have family. You have to get that established first. You have to look for safer environments to live in, and a lot of things. And even if you have a home, making sure your environment is safe is another factor that maybe in another video I will touch on, because that there's a lot to say on that. Let's just leave it at there. And so I I moved, and I I think during my master's, yeah, I moved here. I already have a home. So for a little bit, just because I wasn't sure if I completely moved, because at that time I still had like most of my belongings in the US, like my clothes, my stuff, just most of my stuff, because I already made 2 suitcases and some extra luggage, and I came to Niger. And so I stayed here for a little bit, and then I had to go back to school, because at that time in my mind, home was still the US. Home was still the US, because most of my belongings and most of my life was still there. My job was there, my family, my mom and dad were there, my siblings were there. Um, my room was made, and my closet is still intact, like someone who just went to school and was coming back. And so I had everything already, like sitting there, and I was just come and continue my life in the US. And so I don't know, like I was living in Niger, but my life was still in America. And so I would come here, I would stay for like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then I'll go back. But when I come here and I bring my stuff here, I leave them. I leave them and I go back, because I don't already have stuff in the US. Life just continues there. And so I did that back and forth for a little bit. And by the time I did that for a little bit, like 4 times or so, I had most of my items here in Niger. So my life was beginning to be more in Niger than it were in the US. And then I got pregnant with my first baby, um, which, if you knew me from Instagram, I had a very, had is very important. I had a very engaged and very active Instagram. But when I got pregnant with my first baby, I stopped posting on Instagram. I kept my life very private. I think I began doing that. Like, I do things gradually. I began doing that like when I got married. My life started becoming more private, more private, more private. And so when I had my first baby, I stayed in the US. I didn't travel much. I stayed in the US. After giving birth, I was like, I don't want my baby to grow up here. That was just like, that was the ticking moment. That was the pivotal moment. That was the tip of the iceberg. That was it. I decided then and there that I don't want my child to grow up in the US based on the culture and the ideology that's going through the US right now. For me, I needed to ensure that I'm giving them the utmost, like the best upbringing that I could. And so for me, I was like, I'm going to be able to do that in Niger. I'm going, and there are a lot of factors in that. It's not only the culture. If you understand, like, living in the US, working in the US, going to school full time, doing my master's in the US, and having a baby in the US, and at that time, child daycare is another, like, I don't know, tuition, if you know what I mean. And so I was like, I packed up and I left. That was it. I just packed up and I left. So from the beginning of this video, all the minutes that you spent watching me to this point, I just packed up and I left. No, but I moved when, I think when baby was like about 3 months. Oh no, 1 month. 1 month. A little bit less than 1 month even. I moved. I had a job at that time. I had a full-time job at that time. I was actually I I had a really nice job. I would put it that. I had a really, really nice job. Before giving birth, I went on maternity leave. And during maternity leave, I, moved. I moved back. I had a very understanding manager. Um, and so I, because at that time I started working online as well. I started back up as online. I was gonna start back up working full time back up online, and then once I felt ready, I would come back into the office. And we were also having this thing where you would work once once a week in the office, and so it was very nice. But I already had baby, and my mom. Okay, let's backtrack a little bit. My mom was there, helping me with baby and everything, and so I felt like I had a little bit more time. I could work and stuff like that. But I was also on maternity leave. And so I had to think, like, once maternity leave is over, what is this going to look like? I had a full-time school schedule during my master's, my MPH, and I had a full-time baby. So I really had to evaluate this. And it was during my maternity leave that I decided to move to Niger. I moved back. Once my maternity leave was over, I started working virtually. I talked to my job. They were really understanding that I was just there. But at that time, I didn't know if it were temporary, like maybe for 6 months or for however long, or if it was going to be permanent. But I was still working online. And I was working for a US company, and I was, I relocated a little bit to Niger. You have to understand that when you live in the US, you have to take your child to daycare. Like, working from home, you can't just have a lot of noises going around, especially because I'll be taking a lot of meetings and stuff like that. And so I was fortunate that my mom was there, but at the same time, you would have to take your child to daycare if you were living in the US, because you don't have a permanent help at your home. It's not like you have an au pair. We didn't have an au pair at that time, and at that time, I didn't even know there were au pairs. So yeah, now that there are au pairs, I think that people who have the opportunity should take it. But you really have to know who you're bringing into your home. And for those who don't know what au pairs are people from around the world that you could sponsor to come to your house to live, and they would live full time at your house, and you will give them food, and they will, take the opportunity to learn about the US, discover the US, but they will also be taking care of your kids. They'll be your nanny, in home nanny, do light cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids. Like, you would agree on what they would be doing, but these are adults. So you're not taking advantage of anyone. They're actually applying and wanting to do this voluntarily. And if there are monetary values involved, you would have to talk about it. But I didn't know there were au pairs. Okay, I took a little tea break as well because I was talking so much. This video is so long. But anyways, the biggest culture shocks were thinking that people were suffering, like everyone's suffering. No, there's life here. You know, I already knew that from the back of my head because I experienced it when I was coming here for vacations. But when I settled and I was really living here for months together, um, I realized that people are really living. People are enjoying their life. They're not just, crammed about work and just work and barely having time to talk to their family or being around family or doing what they love to do. They literally live. They live. They don't live to work. They work. They don't like. I don't know how you say it. Is it that you don't live to work, but you work to live? I don't know, but if you know the saying, I'm trying to get that saying. Like, their life is not about work. Their life is about living, and work is just part of it. And they have a society. They have a society. There's some level of togetherness that is not there in the U.S. anymore, because everyone's busy, like, working, chasing that, so chasing the bag. And so I loved the lifestyle. It's more so like a laissez-faire kind of lifestyle where you're living here, you're going to work, but you're not rushed. Life is very taken as it comes. You're not rushed. Life is not rushed here. It's nice, it's calm, it's crazy when I want it to be crazy, and I loved the experience. And so things I missed versus things I didn't expect. um there weren't much that I didn't expect, but there are a couple that I feel are very important to let you guys know, in case if you're watching this video because you wanted to move back to a country in Niger, in Africa, or if you're watching this because you wanted to kind of learn about my experience and what it might be like. Things I missed. Things I missed There are a few things I miss in the US. I'm not gonna lie. The number one thing I would say, things I missed, is being able to find my way very easily. In the US, like, you don't have to know somewhere to go somewhere. Like, you could just put on your GPS and go. I mean, in Niger, you could do the same thing. But before learning how to do it, like, that Google Maps don't work here, that, no, that iMaps don't work here, but Google Maps do. Like, those little things, they make a difference. Things I miss fast food. There's fast food here. It just doesn't taste the same. It just does not taste the same. I'm not very big on fast food. I mean, we eat home most of the time. Even though I was in the US, we ate home. We ate home cooked meals, but at the same time, like, sometimes you just want to, you know, you want to catch a burger or pizza or french fries. Even if you don't eat the entire McDonald's menu, you want some french fries. Like, some little things, like, even if you get it here, it's just not the same. It just doesn't taste the same. No matter how much you buy your pizza, it would not taste the same. There is a taste. I don't know if it's that non-natural taste, before you get your taste buds reaccustomed to eating naturally grown food, everything would taste different. Everything would taste different. And you have to start tasting foods, like, gradually, because you're not used to foods being grown so naturally. So when you intake them, they might impact you. They might impact you. As simple as milk. Like, you're not used to drinking natural milk. Don't be thinking that Costco milk or that Sam's Club milk is good. It's natural. No. It's not the same as the cow's milk or the natural milk from the natural source. When you take it, it would hit you. I mean, I still to this day have not taken it because I know it would hit me. Like moringa, I've taken it, it hit me diarrhea so quick, but now I can eat it. Like, stuff like that. Foods, you would have to slowly integrate yourself into eating them. There are really high quality restaurants here that you could get good food. I'm just saying that it just doesn't taste the same. Things that slowly you would have to think about is like stuff like the internet connection not being fast. Even if you pay for fast connection, like um I'm just looking at some right now. I have wires installed for like home Wi-Fi upstairs and downstairs, different routers. But it's still not fast. Still not fast enough. Sometimes my phone hotspot is faster than my home Wi-Fi. I don't know how that makes sense. But um there are little things that are not the same, that are different. You would just have to get accustomed to it. The job market here is very different. It's not like in the US where you could just go get a job. You could just go get a job. I feel like in the US you could just go get a job. Here, no. You would have to like really work hard to get a job. Because at some point I wanted to stop working in the US and work in Niger. And one thing that I would advise you guys on is that if you're looking to work for Niger, like work in Niger, you would have to get a bigger degree, like a big degree, like a bachelor's, or like an associate's would not cut it here. Like a bachelor's, a master's, like those degrees, not like a high school diploma. I know, like, I respect high school diplomas, but here you wouldn't get a job with it. You wouldn't, because there are people with master's degrees who don't have jobs here. The unemployment here is crazy. Um, if you wanted to start your own business, though, it's easy. It's very, very easy to start your own business. Like, you could start your own business in a day. Very easy. The legal process, very easy. Very, very easy. The upfront cost is so low. But getting a job, bachelor's, master's, a PhD, a doctorate, those are degrees that's going to get you a job. But even with that, you would have to do a lot of networking in order to get a job. So that's something I didn't expect. Um, I came to Niger thinking that everyone's kind of nice. I mean, Niger is a place where a lot of people are nice. But later on, when I wanted to get nannies, I didn't really have a very good experience with nannies in the beginning, but now I do. Now I do. And so I guess I didn't expect to go through some little patches before like being fully established. And that, I think, is wrong from my part, because I just felt that in the beginning, I just felt that, it was rightfully my right to have a really smooth and sailing good experience. And so that wouldn't necessarily be the case. Not necessarily have to be the case. So now I know, but I love it here. So what's been rewarding about being back? I would say now I have a really good job. I have a really good job. One thing I would say is when about work, if you're able to be hired as a US citizen, then your pay is crazy good with the, living expenses here in Niger, like crazy good. But if you're a US citizen and you come here and you don't have Niger nationality or able to work in Niger as, a Niger national, the pay is very bad. Pay is very, very low. It's very low. It could be what you were making in a day for a month. I'm still going to school. I'm still going to school. I haven't always worked consistently, and that's just personal. I mean, I had my babies, and so, I had taken time off, and that's another video. Um, Rewarding family. I love that I have time with my family. I love that I'm with my husband. And this is one thing that a lot of people think, oh, why would you move back from the US? Why would you move? Everyone loves being in the US. Like, people here in Niger would think that everyone would love and would love to live in the US. I love the fact that I am able to see my grandma when I wanted to. I love that, and I'm happy being around my bigger family, like my, what is it? Instead of my nuclear family, like the other family, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, all that. I have that here. In the US, I have my, I don't want to call them fake. I'm not going to call you guys fake, but you know that if you move to the US, all of your aunts and aunties are from another country in Africa that also moved to the US, that are your mom's friends or your dad's friends that you are now family with. But this time, it's literally blood relation, family, like your real family. So I don't want to call you guys my fake cousins from the US, but no shade. My cousins from the US. Everyone who's black would supposed to know this, like, you know how you have cousins in the US that are literally your friends or your mom's friends children. So anyways, um so I have time with family here. I have time with my cousins, my uncles and nieces and nephews. I really love that. And here in it's life in in a community, and so you're able to like experience living with like, oh, I want to go out. You're just calling on your aunt or your niece and, hey, can you help me out with this, or I want this. And this is something that, coming back from the US, I didn't have that culture to begin with. So at first I didn't know that you could just call on someone and ask for help or ask for, let's do this. Like, people are so free here. Everyone has time, everyone is loving, and they're caring, and they care about you, they care about your children, and it's different, and I like it. It's almost like you're being pampered every single day, so I like it. And looking back, any regrets? Would you do it again? For me, I would do it again. I would do it again, and I would do it sooner than I did. But I think the timing that it happened for me was the right timing for me. So I would do it even sooner if I had the opportunity, but the timing that it happened in my life was the best timing because my bachelor's was not online. I did my bachelor's in medical humanities and health studies, and that's something I need a water break, guys. Would I do it sooner? Yes, but my bachelor's was not something that I could do online. So I couldn't just leave my school and come here. And another point is that school from like your degrees from the US are considered more valuable than degrees that were acquired locally here, because I there's some respect, there's a lot of respect, I would say, from like university degrees from the US than university degrees from other countries. And I had the opportunity to go to a really big university. So my bachelor's was not something that I could do online, but my master's was, and I think the timing was best. The timing for me in my life was the best thing that could have ever happened. So I'm grateful for that. And what advice would I give to someone thinking about doing the same thing that I did, moving back to Niger or moving to Niger? I would say do it incrementally and don't do it like all at once. Like, you can't just move. I mean, you could, but it's a different experience. I mean, it's different. It's a different environment. Get a feel of the environment first. Do a couple weeks, a couple months. Make sure you have a lot of savings before you move to Niger. If you don't have a good job, if you don't have a stable job, make sure that you have some way of supporting yourself. I mean, you finding jobs here is not easy. I'm working for a non-for-profit, international non-for-profit organization that goes and aligns really well with my degrees, um, and more focused on maternal and child health. But if you don't have a good job, or if you don't have a job that you could do online, like if you're doing YouTube videos or influencing and stuff like that that you could do anywhere in the world, this is the best opportunity for you to move here, because you could do your job here. um but if you don't know the place, you don't know the people, the culture is very new to you, keep your life in the US for a little bit. And if you come here and if it doesn't work out for you, you can move back to the US, get recharged, and come try again. And I mean get recharged in the sense of like, you know, if you spend 6 months without getting a job here and you need to go financially recharge yourself, you could work harder in the US. You know, you could easily get a job, you could go back to your home, you could go back to your family. Like, if you are not native to Niger and you don't have a different plan for your life, a lot of different plans for your life, it's going to be hard moving back to Niger for good. and I hope that makes any sense. But anyways, thank you for joining me and watching this video. I know it's really long. Enjoy your day, and I hope this video helps.